Hi, thanks for choosing Dead Speaks, highlighting crimes, convictions, found dead, or still missing. One moment, please.
Aerion, it says is there a hostage now in that car with him? We carjacked the vehicle. There's hostages inside. There's looks like there's hostages inside.
Your call sign, please.
I need everybody to listen up. Red here. We have any shots fired engagement. I need everybody to watch the crossfire and watch your hands of fire. We now have a victim inside this car.
It was just past 4:30 in the morning when gunfire echoed through the lobby of the Aliante Casino. A young man collapsed. Another fled into the darkness, and North Las Vegas would never be the same. This is the story of Na'Onche Osborne, 23 years old, adopted son of former state senator, and Aerion Warmsley, a 19-year-old with talent, trauma, and a stolen gun. March 27, 2025, just before sunrise inside the Aliante Casino in North Las Vegas, routine gave way to tragedy. At around 4:30 a.m., gunfire echoed near the food court. 23-year-old Na'Onche Osborne was shot 7 times. Some of those rounds were fired while he lay already wounded on the floor. The suspect then took something out of his pocket as he lay motionless. Could that have been what this was all about? A robbery? A drug deal gone wrong? Either way, chaos erupted. Patrons scattered. The casino floor became a crime scene. But this wasn't the first time Osborne's name appeared in police reports or headlines. Back in October of 2022, Osborne was arrested for attempted murder following a shooting at a North Las Vegas home in the 4100 block of Ehrenberg Avenue.
But we do know the shooting victim, Osborne, was involved in a shooting at former state senator Pat Spearman's home in October of 2022, something Spearman talked about in an emotional interview in front of our cameras years ago.
It's with a heavy heart that my family is impacted by gun violence. I have more empathy than ever before for families who have to deal with such tragedies.
A witness details in a police report from 2022 that Osborne suffers from PTSD stemming from trauma from his childhood. Fast forward to Thursday when Osborne is gunned down.
According to police reports, Osborne had a history of conflict with the victim, a man in his 40s, identified by Spearman as her nephew. Thankfully, he survived. At the time of the arrest, Osborne was just 21. His background, a complex one. Troubled, yes, but also tied to a high-profile political figure in Nevada. Now, just over 2 years later, the headlines changed once again. This time, Osborne wasn't the accused, he was the victim. The shooter? Identified hours later as Aerion Warmsley, a teenager from North Las Vegas. He didn't just flee, he set off a rampage. According to police reports, Warmsley was behind the wheel of a stolen car, later committing at least 3 more carjackings in a wild, reckless attempt to escape. 2 pedestrians were struck, several vehicles damaged, and yet, this story didn't start in that casino. Na'Onche Osborne wasn't just another statistic. He was a son, a brother, a young man trying to find his place. Adopted as a teenager by state senator Pat Spearman, a trailblazing LGBTQ advocate and longtime public servant, Na'Onche became part of a family deeply rooted in a mission to change lives, to serve their community. Spearman had campaigned on safety, reform, and second chances, once running for mayor in hopes of building a better and safer North Las Vegas. But on March 27th, tragedy made its way to her own doorstep. Her son, gunned down in a casino not far from the very neighborhood she fought to protect. But this story isn't just about the victim. It's also about the boy who pulled the trigger. So who was Aerion Warmsley? To some, he was a mystery, quiet, guarded, a teenager who could vanish into the background of a room or command one upon entry. He knew how to rap, He had bars, one close friend told us. He was gifted, but also wounded. Not so long ago, Aerion was just another kid, goofy, full of energy. He liked to laugh, to play, to run wild with friends. But behind the carefree smile, something darker had already begun to grow. Raised without a consistent father figure, Warmsley grew up learning to rely on himself. Trust didn't come easily. The streets around him offered more lessons than classrooms ever could, and not all of them were meant for survival. He was surrounded by crime, burdened by instability, and weary of authority. And yet, according to some, he was trying. They say he had been making changes, trying to step away from trouble, delivering food, writing music, trying to stay off the radar. But for Aerion Warmsley, that progress may have come too late. The past, it seems, wasn't quite done with him yet. According to a source familiar with the case, 19-year-old Aerion Warmsley was already walking a dangerous line that morning. He arrived at the Aliante Casino driving a stolen car, one of several he had allegedly used during a chaotic spree across Las Vegas. But in this moment, his purpose was more subtle. He was reportedly delivering food for Uber Eats while armed. He wasn't alone. His friend rode with him. They had a brief interaction with the Aliante security. Warmsley had reportedly drawn attention in the parking garage, raised enough suspicion to prompt a warning. Nothing more. Just after 4:30 a.m., Warmsley entered the casino. The energy inside was typical of an early morning Vegas, quiet, low-key, and half awake. But that stillness would soon be shattered. That's when he crossed paths with 23-year-old Na'Onche Osborne. What begun as a casual exchange, reportedly involving drugs, quickly escalated into something darker. Witnesses say a topic shifted from substances to something far more vital: neighborhood affiliations, territory, respect, armed robbery. Words were exchanged, tension thickened, and then violence.
Surveillance video from inside the casino shows 23-year-old Na'Onche Osborne walking around. He and a man police identified as Warmsley start talking when suddenly Warmsley hits Osborne over the head. He then shoots him.
7 shots rang out, echoing through the casino floor. Surveillance cameras captured the chaos. Bystanders dove for cover, and Osborne collapsed where he stood, some bullets striking him after he was already down. Then silence. The shooter fled. The crowd froze. And within minutes, the early morning stillness was replaced by sirens, flashing lights, and the harsh reality of another life lost to senseless violence. As Aerion Warmsley sped away from the Aliante Casino, adrenaline surged through his body. The flashing lights hadn't caught up yet, but he knew they were coming. He had just shot a man, and somewhere, in the back of his mind, reality was starting to set in. 19 years old. No plan, no way out. Just a stolen car, a gun, and a growing sense of panic. Every red light became a gamble, every turn a risk. His heart was likely beating out of his chest, chaos closing in. But here he was. In less than an hour, he would carjack multiple vehicles, ditching one car and forcing his way into another. Each handoff marked a deeper descent. This wasn't escape, it was survival, or at least his version, on this fateful day.
And it's a day that's left this 19-year-old to face state and federal charges and now possibly the death penalty as he's accused of killing a former state senator's son and then going on this wild chase.
Carjacking a woman waiting at an auto repair shop.
John 9 northbound.
Police say Warmsley, now in this stolen SUV, led police on this chase down Boulder Highway. He crashes into another car in a bus stop, severely injuring at least 2 people. That's when the 911 calls started coming in.
There's been a major crash at Tropicana and Boulder Highway.
Video from above shows him running out of the damaged SUV to a nearby drive-through.
He's carjacking someone in the Burger King parking lot. Just stole a car in the Burger King parking lot.
That driver, now the second carjacking victim of the morning, telling police she left her phone in the car and she's tracking him.
He's going head on at someone Boulder Highway.
For the next half hour, police say Warmsley drove at speeds reaching 100 miles an hour.
Okay, we need to get this guy pitted out and stopped. He's already carjacked someone and already murdered someone, so still doing over 100 on surface streets.
Until he loses control.
He's running across Boulder Highway. He's going to carjack this guy. We need to stop him by any means necessary. Just climbed in the back seat.
Officers try to stop Warmsley and get another car with his now 3rd carjacking victim at the wheel.
They're a hostage now in that car with him.
There are 2 people in the front seat, and then suspect is in the rear seat. Unknown if they're kidnapped victims or not. It seems likely, but at this point, we're doing 85 northbound Boulder Highway, or past the 95.
Officers eventually ramming that car with at least 4 different cruisers crashing into it. Police then converge on it, pulling Warmsley out. One of their body cameras capturing this image as police took him into custody.
By the time dawn broke over North Las Vegas, the city was already waking up to sirens and tension. Streets once quiet were now scattered with flashing lights and police tape. Officers coordinated across jurisdictions, helicopters swept the skies, and somewhere in the middle of it all was a teenager trying to outrun his choices. There were no more distractions, no more verses to write, just the sound of tires screeching against pavement and the weight of what he had done pressing harder with every mile. Na'Onche Osborne's death didn't just leave a void. It tore through a family already familiar with public pressure and private pain. He wasn't a stranger to controversy, but to those who knew him, he was more than a headline. And for State Senator Pat Spearman, a veteran legislator and public servant, this wasn't politics. This was personal. Osborne was her son, and now he was gone. Meanwhile, the man accused of pulling the trigger, 19-year-old Aerion Warmsley, now faces a future shaped by the full weight of the justice system. Murder, robbery, carjacking, reckless endangerment. The list of charges is long and growing. And with both state and federal prosecutors involved, the stakes have never been higher. Discussions are already underway to pursue the death penalty. In the days following the shooting, public outrage was swift. The call for justice loud and relentless, with multiple charges against Aerion, including first-degree murder. Prosecutors are weighing the most severe punishment available, the death penalty. But behind the scenes, not everyone agrees that execution is the answer. For some, this case represents more than a violent act. It reflects a cycle. A young man shaped by trauma, hardened by the streets, and failed by the system meant to protect and guide. To those who knew him, Warmsley wasn't a cold-blooded killer. He was complicated. He was creative. He was a teenager with a gift for music and a hunger to be seen and heard. In recent months, they say he'd been trying to make a change, writing songs, working jobs, and staying quiet. But change, especially for someone like Aerion, doesn't come easy. It comes slowly, unevenly, and sometimes it comes too late. Now the courtroom will decide his fate. But for many watching, the real question isn't just whether justice will be served. It's what justice will look like. Is accountability enough if it ends in death? And what becomes of redemption when a second chance is no longer possible? Both of these boys' story is part of a troubling pattern. Influencers are influencing, and these kids are being influenced. They only do what they see and go by what they hear. And in their world, the soundtrack wasn't hope. It was survival. It was pain. It was violence, echoed in lyrics, reflected in the streets, and reinforced by the environment where trauma often speaks louder than reason. The music glorifies guns, the culture rewards aggression, and for too many young men, especially in underserved communities, it becomes more than entertainment, it becomes instruction. Warmsley, barely 19, wasn't just reacting. He was repeating what he learned in a world where chaos is normalized and consequences feel distant. He's not just a criminal, he's a consequence, a product of a broken system, a violent influence, and an environment where young men are told toughness is survival. Now, one life is lost, another hangs in the balance behind bars, and two families linked forever by tragedy are left to mourn what could have been. In the end, there are no winners, just broken families, period. This case isn't just about guilt or innocence. It's about what happens when trauma, culture, and environment collide. It's about what we teach our kids and what they carry with them when no one's looking. Thank you for watching this episode of Dead Speaks. If you enjoyed this story, hit like and subscribe for more cases. And as always, stay safe and stay curious.